Well, hello everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. I am once again having issues. I am not in the best of moods, shall we say. I'm just trying to get this. For some reason, the camera went offline literally at the end of everything. It was going fine, and I don't know what's happened. I'm not in a good mood. I'm not in a good mood at all. Let me see. Oh, I see what's happened. There we go. There we go. Fixed it. Oh, thank God for that. Thank God for that. I am having one of those weeks where everything just seems to be going wrong. We spoke about camera taking photos last week, and something I want to say. I store my photos on a server that I've had 4 or 5 years here. It's a 5 terabyte. It was a 5 terabyte drive, but I never got round to actually getting the backup side of things set up. Long story. Well, those files died this week. I've lost all my photos, all my videos for the last 5 years. Added to that, my video computer has gone slow. I'm not having a good day at all. Everything just seems to be going wrong. So I'm hoping you guys are going to help cheer me up today. We're going to be talking about herb gardens, but first of all, let's see who we've got out there. First of all, Adrian is out there saying hello to Richard and good evening to you. Billy SBB is there saying hello, everyone. Good evening to you. We've got Ballycillian Allotment Man also saying hello. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream saying good evening, Venture Podcasters. Good evening to you. Muddy Boots say hello. All nice to see you. Remembered to alter your clocks. Yes, we had 1 hour. The time changed, didn't it? The one went one ahead 1 hour. Hargrave Gas, evening all. Hope you've had a great week. Almost forgot it was Sunday for a moment. I've had that trouble. I've been off work all week, but I keep forgetting it is, or what day of the week it is. It is a Sunday, of course. Who else have we got? Scott Ambler saying good evening all. Good evening to you. Kate Spratt is there saying good evening, Veg Army. Absolutely shattered from moving out, but got big plans for the garden space. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with it today, in the future, Kate. For those who don't know, Kate has just moved house and it's all very exciting. Chili Kate, hi everyone, happy Easter, good evening to you. Digwell says, Buono Estantio, Channel 9 Nias greeting on the Fast Show from 1994. I never watched the Fast Show, I'll be honest. We have got Allotted Chef. Evening all. Good evening to you. Rob's Allotment Gardening. It's saying good evening all. Hope you all had a great Easter and not overindulged in the Easter eggs. What else have we got? Stuart Jackson. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Nice to see our weather is changing. We had 2 sunny days, hasn't it? It's been in my greenhouse. The temperature has reached 40 degrees C. Good evening and a happy Easter from my dad. Good evening to you. Digwell says, hear you, not see you. Hear you also. Turbo Stream, course, see out just a logo. All good now. And Turbo Stream appears like magic. It has just been a nightmare. I'll put it like that. I'm very upset that I've lost so much of my data. Five years of photos, videos. It's just driving me mad. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to rescue the drive, but it's got to go off to be rescued. It's that bad. Evening Gardeners says Anna Jones. Good evening to you. Digwell says nightmare. I've been having audio issues with my filming lately. It just seems to happen all at once, doesn't it? It's just so frustrating. As I said, I've got this server built in. I've got 3 computers plus a server in here, all linked together, networked, and it works so well until one thing goes wrong, like has happened this week, and it seems to have a knock-on effect with everything else. Digwell says 1 hour less rain, indeed. And Bethan says, evening all, I hope you've had a good Easter. Been lovely. Turbo Stream says, oh dear, been there, done that with computers, lost many weekends reformatting, reinstalling operating systems that were working perfectly. Yeah, tell me about it. Nigel says, Richard, you need to get a server with RAID. Great when hard drive fails. My server does actually have RAID. I had 3 extra hard drives sat in my drawer waiting to go in so I could mirror them, as they call it. And unfortunately, my brother is my IT guy for this. I never got him round to do that. I never pushed him either, to be fair. But now we've lost a 3 terabyte and a 2 terabyte drive, which both have to work with each other. This is very technical, I know, but 3 terabyte and a 2 terabyte drive that have to work each other. We've had to pop those other ones in. We're hoping, I think there's somewhere we can go and get these drives rescued. I hope so. I hope so. But they are going to be mirrored from now in. Oh, Raid. Evening, Richard. How's everything? Says somebody in the Facebook group. I'm not sure who it is, but good evening and welcome. Hope you are well. Nigel says, got 2 times 12 terabyte in my setup. Yeah, I was building up to that. Myself. I just back everything up is my one word of advice. We spoke about photos last week. Back everything up. It is a nightmare when you lose everything. All my pictures of Roxy, all my days out, all gone. David String says, be surprised if the data is gone. Usually just a corrupt file denying access. Fingers crossed you can get it back. Yeah, I think it's going to cost a fortune to get it back. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Nigel says, I lost a big drive and got some recovery software, about £100, and recovered the lot. I'm hoping we're going to be able to do that as well. We've just got to look into it. But anyway, that's not really talking about gardening, is it? We want to talk about gardening. And in particular, I want to talk about herb gardens. This is a subject that not everybody may be interested in, I know, but I think for me, herbs are probably one of the most important things to grow in your garden. The reason I say that, and I always recommend, if you don't have much space, grow herbs if you want to grow some of your own food. The reason I say that is that herbs are used a lot in cooking. We could be using them in so many different meals, so many different. Basically, you could be using herbs every single day. And if you're growing them your own, you have them out in your garden, on your windowsill, on your patio. They grow anywhere. So I'm going to start off by asking, what herbs do you grow and where do you grow them? I'm a big fan of rosemary. I grow oregano or oregano, depends how you pronounce it. We've got sage. I've just got some new sage, as you know. We've got basil. Love basil. Thyme. So many mints, of course, as well. There are hundreds and hundreds of different herbs, but what herbs do you grow? What is your favorite? Nigel says, I lost a big drive and got some. Oh, yeah, I've read that one. And Digwell says, all my stuff is backed up in the cloud, 100 terabyte with Norton, 50 terabyte with BT. Yeah, I've got to look at that. I've got to look. I need to back everything up in the cloud as well. I've always wanted cloud access to my server anyway, just because it makes it easier to work when you're away from home. But that's nothing. Anyway, we'll get away from that. Rebecca is in the Facebook group saying, evening, Richard, listening from afar tonight with lots of family around. Hope you are well, Rebecca. Whereabouts are you if you are far? And is your family also interested in growing their own food? If so, what do they grow? And what herbs do they grow as well? Jenny Kate says, I tidied up our herb garden at home this weekend, inspired by the show. Well, that's actually a very good thing. As I say, I think herbs are probably one of the most important things to grow. They're great for adding some nice flavouring, grow in so many different locations, and they are absolutely fantastic. Bethan says, my favourite herbs are chives and dill, but I also grow basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, and parsley. See, I love chives as well. Actually, our chives have came up. We've got pots of chives. We've got chives in our small veggie pod. They've all came up. We've started harvesting and eating some of those, along with parsley as well. So yeah, chives and dill, fantastic. Digwell says, I have 8 different basils and 8 different mints. What are they? You wouldn't believe it. Not one gardener in my family, says Rebecca. Well, hopefully, if they're watching tonight, we might be able to get them to change their mind and start getting involved. You never know. It's always our aim here. Toby Stim says, I best sit at the back tonight. I don't grow herbs, despite packets coming every month. Oops. Soz. Actually, I don't like the taste of most of them. So here's the thing. I understand you don't like the taste of herbs. I mean, I think they are fantastic things. But many herbs also do well as companion planting. And I think that's something we've got to remember. So if you have certain problems, there may be a herb that will counteract that. And that's something we might get into a little bit later on. Chili Kate says, at home we have rosemary, thyme, sage, oregano, or peppermint for tea, garden mint for cooking, chives, parsley, and lemon balm everywhere. I tend to grow basil on the allotment with tomatoes. So there we go. Basil and tomatoes, two of the plants that just work together as a companion plant. And the basil tends to increase the flavour of the tomatoes and vice versa, as well as repel many pests. So basil tomatoes, great example of companion planting. Nigel says, I only like one kind of basil, and that is Forty. Fantastic. Good old Basil Forty. Oh, was it the 80s? Maybe early. I can't remember now. I was very young. I remember that. I can't seem to find it. I fancied watching it because I don't recall watching them when they were out. I can't seem to find reruns of it. Digger says dill is one of the best companion plants for almost every other veg. Yeah, dill. Dill is a great example of a herb that you can grow. It goes great with as a herb, goes great with a lot of fish recipes, but it also is a really good companion plant. It brings in those pollinators, but repels some pests and things like that. So Bill is up. Dill is up there as one of those that we should grow. Nicholas says, evening, Richard. Happy Easter to all. Good evening to you. Bethan says, I grew Thai basil last year, and I don't like it raw, but I cooked with tomatoes and spring onions, and it was lovely. Sometimes cooking herbs can be nicer than fresh. I'm totally with you on that. Yeah, there are some herbs that aren't great. I mean, here's a good question for you. What is your definition of a herb? For me, a definition of a herb is an ingredient, something that you pick and you add to add flavor. But it's not a spice, it's the actual plant, the foliage that we are adding, foliage or flowers. But what is your definition of a herb? Stuart Jackson says, I grow thyme, chives, coriander, basil, bay, mint, parsley, and rosemary. At home, at school, we grow hardy herbs, then teach cutting, taking. Yeah, it's a great way of expanding the amount of herbs you have, isn't it? Taking cuttings, and you get to. Rosemary is a great example. You take a cutting of rosemary, pull off a few of the lower leaves, dip it in some rooting hormone, put it in a pot, keep it moist, and pretty soon you end up with lots more rosemary. It's a fantastic one to continue to grow. Digwell says basil, British cinnamon, dark opal, lemon drop, lime, sweet green, and Thai is the 8 examples of basil that he grows. I mean, I think lots of different basil. It all goes down great. But basil is one of those, I think, one of the best herbs because you can grow it all year round if you grow it on a windowsill. I think it does better outside in the open. But if you want basil in the winter, you can grow it on the windowsill. And it just seems to work quite well. Again, one of those brilliant companion plants, as we said earlier. Scott says, I grow most of the hard herbs, rosemary, sage, and thyme, etc., but I love soft herbs like tarragon and coriander. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that. Stuart Jackson says, I think I'm going to use an old Belfast sink for my mint this year. Cannot recommend it enough. When we moved into this house, we actually inherited a Belfast sink with garden mint in it, which comes back every year. It is huge. It's very, very heavy. So get it in your position first. But we get plenty of mint from it. One of the things I've learned with mint is that it tends to sort of in midsummer, late summer, it tends to flower. But what I've discovered is in about June, July time, I cut down half of the mint so that it regrows. And then about a month later, cut down the second half when that mint has started regrowing. That way it doesn't flower and goes a bit bitter. and you keep your mint growing, or able to harvest mint just by cutting half of it down, leaving the other half to grow. So there you go. One of my tips I have for you. Digwell says for his mints, apple, chocolate, green, lemon, spearmint, peppermint, orange, and pineapple. Question about all these mints. Do you find after 3-4 years they tend to lose that flavour that they have? They tend to take on that taste of normal mint. Just my thoughts on that. Do you find that yourself? Nicholas says, I've grown sage in containers for years. Last year, all the plants in one container just died. Not sure of the reason. Had the plants for 3 years. Could be something going on at the roots. My guess would be some sort of weevil in the roots or something like that. But without seeing it, it's hard to know. But yeah, again, I've grown sage. I've got a sage plant outside. It's in the ground at the moment. It was in a pot. I've been growing it for about 10 years. I'm getting rid of it at the moment because it's gone so big and woody that it's just not really, it's lost a lot of its flavor. It's just not good enough anymore. So we're getting rid of that sage plant, which is why I brought a new sage plant to replace it as our plans develop. Digwell says, no excuse for not growing basil. Buy a pot of it from Tesco and split it into 10 plants at 99p per pot for last week. Exactly. It is pretty cheap. A lot of our garden or herbs that we can buy in pots from a supermarket do actually grow quite well. I do find they are not the best. You wouldn't buy them from a supermarket like that because they have been so poorly looked after in things like that. But once you have got once you get them home and you look after them, they can soon bounce back. Kate says, I love all herbs. I'm starting a new herb area and hope to get as many varieties as possible, including some of the more unusual ones. I have chocolate mint and barbecue rosemary. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Kate, again, a herb garden as soon as you move in, probably one of the most important, in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do because of how much we use herbs. Digwell says vine weevil in reply to Nicola, and he goes on to say, yes, they need renewing by cuttings every few years. Exactly. That's why it's so good to take cuttings of some of your herbs while you still can. Scott says, I have 2 big curry plants. It smells great, but not so good for culinary use. Has anyone grown curry leaf plant, the ones used in curries, as opposed to the curry smelling plant herb that I have? I don't think I've ever grown a curry leaf plant, but I did find out with the curry plants, they do just smell a curry, but not really that useful in the kitchen. So I gave up on it. I didn't bother anymore. It's a shame because I do quite like, I mean, I love the smell of curry anyway. Love my curries, as no doubt you know. Rob says, I've tried to grow herbs from seed without any luck. So what I do now is just buy the plants from the supermarket, which is, again, this Digwell hinted on that earlier. Growing herbs from a supermarket, just so easy to do, so much easier than growing from seed in many cases. I still grow from seed because I love growing from seed. But 99p and you get 10 plants out of it. That'll go well in your greenhouse, your borders, to help your tomatoes grow that much better. Stuart says, I forgot sage. I grow that at home, but at school we took over 50 cuttings with the children, hopefully to sell to parents at £1 per pot. Should pay for next year's compost. That's a great way of looking at it. Stuart, as many of you will know, works in a school and tries to teach the children gardening at the school. So the extra money to fund the gardening at school does help. But again, taking cuttings, if you want, and I spoke about this with our fruits on the podcast on Monday, you take cuttings, you get extra stock, and you can always sell them on if you have too many. But it also refreshes your plants as well and keeps some more as a backup. Should one die, you've taken cuttings from it, especially if it's a really good tasting plant. So my next question to you guys is, where do you grow your herbs in your garden, on your allotment, or anything like that? It's a question I've got to ask because hey, why not? My herb garden, I used to grow it alongside my chickens because I figured that was a good place for it. Before that, it was in front of my kitchen window in loads and loads of pots. Well, I'm going back to growing them in front of my kitchen window now. In the ground, it worked perfectly fine. It just didn't really quite fit in with what I'm trying to do here. So I'm going back to growing them in front of kitchen window. But what I don't want to do is end up with pots and pots and pots of herbs, which is why I'm growing them in sinks. So we've got salad barnet in a sink. We've got peppermint. We've got the herbal tea Belfast sink from a couple of weeks ago. Then we've got some more rosemary, some more thyme in another Belfast sink, and we've got chives. We're going to be adding more as well. I just don't want it to get overrun with pots. I try to make the most of our space, I guess you could say. Digwell says curry plants or that word, 2 words, is an ornamental, not the same as dried curry leaves from an Asian shop. Yeah, we want to try. I think what Scott's getting at is to try and get the dried or the plant that actually produces the dried curry leaves. Anna Jones says, I use a lot of herbs as ornamentals. I grow red and green Perelia or shisho in mixed tubs, sage in my border, rosemary as a shrub, and creeping thyme as a rockery plant. That is actually absolutely fantastic. And this goes to show another reason why I think herbs are fantastic in the garden, because they do have an architectural, a nice look about it as well. I think rosemary as a shrub looks fantastic. Creeping thyme in a rockery, all great ideas. And Perelia, just beautiful, absolutely beautiful plant. Nicholas says, I had 3 stoneware cattle troughs, a large butler sink shapes, 1.5 times as big as very blue and heavy, 2 times the weight of a sink. Totally agree. Potting in position before filling up, looking to pop wheels on the base. Yeah, lots going on there. Lots going on there. Rob says, I have an 8-segment herb trug. Oh, those are the wooden raised ones with the, yes, with the 8 sections. They're brilliant, I've got to say. From Veg Trug makes some, I know that. I mean, I love my small veggie pod for herbs, although parsley and chives in them at the moment. The parsley can be quite a big plant if you really let it get growing. It does seem to take over this entire small veggie pod. Just something to be mindful of there. Ian says, evening, Richard and all. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson says, all my soft herbs are in my veggie pod. Best money I spent in the garden for a long time. Veggie pod, yeah. For those that don't know what a veggie pod is, it's a raised garden platform. It's got basically, instead of the water coming out the bottom, it comes out the side, so it creates a well in the bottom which can hold on to water for a good week. It's also got a mesh cover with an integrated watering system. It is a brilliant piece of kit. I've got to say, I've had my medium one, 5-6 years now. I've got the small and the large one because they are brilliant. And I actually think they are very productive as well. A lot of money, but I found they do pay for themselves in the amount of vegetables that you can harvest from them. Chili Kate says, our herb garden is at home is a small rockery bed by the back door. Just nipping out for rosemary for our roast lamb right now. Perfect timing, isn't it? Just goes to show how the useful having it by the back door or right in your back garden when you just need to nip out for a few herbs in the garden. It just pays it off. Bethan says, I grow mint in a few pots and those white polystyrene boxes that sometimes have fish in them. Dill I grew with parsley and tumbling toms in my veg trug last year. There we go. Dill and parsley. Great ideas there. Yes, that's it. So talking about the veg, the veg trug with the 8 sections. Brilliant piece of kit as well. Scott says dried curry leaves are good, but fresh are much better. I think you can grow them as an indoor plant. And Digwell says the edible curry leaves come from a curry tree, Moraga. I'm not very good at pronouncing some of the words that come in from other countries. Now, I was going to, as you know, it's Easter Sunday. So on an Easter Sunday, I usually hide some eggs around, which is something. Ah, no, I know what I can do. We have had. I'm going to put this up while I do this. I know exactly what I can do. We have had a picture come in, slightly off topic now, which is where is it? This one. So this is from the Bethan. It's this week's harvest food that she's harvested. As you know, we're trying to each week. Oh, you've just seen me do that, haven't you? Each week we're trying to show some of the food that we harvest. And Bethan has sent this one in. Absolutely fantastic. Some purple sprouting broccoli and some mustard in amongst that. As I say, I've had so many issues tonight that I'm running behind. But we do an Easter egg hunt usually every year. So I've hidden some Easter eggs behind me. Let me know if you can spot them. Go back to the comments. Where are they? Digwell says, my white poly boxes had Cornish pasties in them. Mine, I use them for leeks. Mine had fish in them. Scott says, can be grown indoors. Need to buy one now. That Morocco. I'm going to have to look into that as well. Oh, yum. Indeed. Digwell says around £30 each. There we go. There is a Milky Way egg behind you, says Rob's Lot and Garden. Indeed, there is a Milky Way egg. Next to the All Grow. Yeah, the Freddo. The Freddo was there. By the Spade. Yeah, the white button. There is one more, but you may not be able to see it very easily thinking about it. We will hide them again in a little bit. Joys of having technical issues before we go live. Now, coming back to the herb conversation, there was we were discussing what was it? Where we grow. Has anybody ever made a herb spiral, which is where you have herbs growing around like that in a spiral, which make the most use of what am I looking for? I'll get my words out today. These technical issues are going on. A herb spiral where basically you have it on the north, south, east, and west directions on the compass, and you make a spiral in like a mound. The stuff at the top is what needs the most amount of the sun, but also the most amount of drainage, and the stuff at the back is what does best in the shade. Has anybody ever grown a herb spiral? What have we got? What have we got? Under the tomato. Yeah, sort of. I've just realised I've left all my documents up there. That shouldn't be there either. Next to the name that's been spotted under the tomato. Not quite. I used the price of Freddos to measure inflation. These weren't too bad. They were £1 something. I can't remember now. And they weren't too bad. Scott says, I love a Freddo, but love them more when they were 10p. Yeah, they're like, I can't remember how much they are now, but these were like a £1.10 or something, which I didn't think was too bad. I remember them at that price, says Rob's. Have you eaten the other egg? No, I have not eaten the other egg. Digwell says, mine are going into a Birdie's raised bed. Is Birdie's one of those metal raised beds that I've seen doing the rounds? Let me know. Richard Golden says, hello all. Good evening, Richard. Hope you are well. We're talking about herb gardens, and I want to find out where you grow your herbs. Digwell says, by the trail. Yeah, was in a bit of a difficult location, that one. I will hide them again because I was going to do quite a few of these. I even brought some cream eggs as well to try and mix it up. technical issues just seem to go wrong and always annoy me when that happens. Yes, an Aussie metal raised bed. I'll have to look into that. I mean, so I shared a post a couple of weeks ago about VegPod, not VegPod, sorry, SubPod, which was an Australian underground composting, which was brilliant, but they've unfortunately gone out of business. And I said at the time, a lot of really good gardening stuff seems to come from Australia, and I can't figure out why that is. May not always do well in this country, but that's another argument for another day. But I can think of so many things in my garden that the company, the companies come from Australia. Right, I have got to take that call because I'm actually on call. This is going to be a bit of a problem because I haven't got any videos to share with you. I'll deal with it in a minute. I'll deal with you it later. Nigel says, tonight's challenge, eat all of the Easter eggs before tonight's show ends. That will make me very, very sick. I don't eat much chocolate as a general rule. That will make me very, very sick. But we'll see what we will see what we do. No way I could eat all that in one night. He's a bad. I know. We'll carry on with a hiding in a moment. Now, talking of the challenge, it was set a challenge of the micro photography. Unfortunately, I've lost them all on my server. So what have I got? I did take a few photos on my phone just to try and get there in the first place. You're going to have to see it like that. So that was a micro photography of the cacti from last week's challenge. There was one more that I got, not that one. Where is it? That one, the ladybird. It's not great on this camera, is it? But that was the last week's challenge. Unfortunately, I lost all my files, so I've lost those photos. Digrat says, forgot just sown Corsica mint today. Nice and easy. Pelleted multi-seeds, no fiddly micro dots. Fantastic. Right. So let's come back to the herbs. Most herbs are Mediterranean grown, aren't they? They like lots of sun, free draining soil, and bit of moisture. But most herbs are from the Mediterranean. I was trying to think of any herbs that don't come from the Mediterranean at all. And apart from mint, I couldn't really think of any. If anybody has any ideas on what herbs that might be, let me know. What Digwell saying, my grandkids could eat them all. LOL. I'm sure they could. There's no way I could. That will probably be here till the end of next month, to be honest, because we're not big chocolate eaters. It's one of those things that we do eat when they're around. Has anybody ever grown a chocolate plant? It's something I've often thought about trying to grow. It would be a good thing to grow or give it a go. I remember years ago, I used to see those sort of gift packs that encourage people to grow chocolate or the chocolate plant or the cocoa plant, sorry. But I never got around to trying it and I never thought about it. Feverfew. Now is that a Mediterranean plant or not? But it's a good feverfew is actually a good medicinal herb, isn't it? I used to grow feverfew quite a lot. As you probably know, I suffer quite badly from headaches from time to time. And when that happens, it's feverfew. If I added feverfew to my meals every day, I got less headaches. And it's probably saying I should grow again because it is so good for my headaches. The only trouble with feverfew is it flowers and it sets seeds and the plants or itself seeds everywhere, but it is a good one. I'm not sure if it's a Mediterranean plant or not. Um, I don't think it is. I don't think it is, but I don't know. But again, medicinal herbs. I don't really like talking about medicinal herbs, but it's something I might just throw in there. We've done obviously the teas for the herbal teas, but medicinal herbs are something that um, we don't know much or I'm always worried about using because of the fact that we can't. I'm not a doctor. I never like to share my thoughts on what they are good for in terms of health benefits and everything else because it's such a complicated subject. I think you need people to be very, very specific when it comes to that sort of thing, or that's their chosen chosen field. But feverfew, as I've this led me on to this thought, feverfew is a great example of a really good one that I have found helps with my headaches. Digwell has just come up with some herbs that are native to the UK: angelica, yarrow, St John's wort, marshmallow, pennyroyal, milk thistle, and thyme. I think all native to the UK. I think thyme is a Mediterranean plant, though, but I could be wrong. I think thyme is Mediterranean. Don't know. I'll let you think about that. Nicola says headaches can be made worse from dehydration. Drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day, not juices, tea, or coffee. Again, you're getting into the realm where you need people in their chosen fields. I know that's not the case for my headaches, and there's a lot of people that will say that actually, water is water, whether it's in juice, tea, or coffee. So we're not going to get into that because it's very contentious. But yeah, headaches. I will admit, headaches can be worse from dehydration. That's one of the signs. We're not doctors, is all I'm saying. I don't want to give out bad advice and it comes back on us, because when you get into that, it can get pretty serious. Right, carry on. What were we going to do? What were we going to say? Yeah, I cannot think of any non-Mediterranean herbs. But what I do tend to find that all herbs seem to grow in pretty much the same conditions. Mint does like a lot of moisture, so it does better in the shade. Whereas rosemary and sage are very much they like a bit of water, but they very much like their free draining sunny spots. Rob's Allotment Garden, cowslips are native herb to the UK. Cowslips, there you go. I didn't actually think they were herb, but they are related to parsley as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that would make a lot of sense. Does that mean parsley is a native herb to the UK? Not sure. Not sure. Added to that, I was thinking of one other herb, coriander. I know coriander is one of those funny herbs, isn't it? That I love the stuff. I grow coriander quite a lot. You use it a lot in cooking, but there's a genetic disposition when it comes to coriander that they do not like the taste of it. Don't ask me why. There is a reason, but some people cannot stand coriander. Other people love it, and apparently it tastes like soap to some people. Robson Lomond says, I think wild garlic may also be native to the UK. Yeah, wild garlic. Welsh onion as well is probably another example of a herb, a perennial onion that's native to the UK. Wales, of course, being part of the UK. Digwell says, coriander tastes like soap to me. You're one of those with that genetic disposition that I was trying to get to, where coriander just doesn't appeal to everybody. I love the stuff personally. I think it is quite tasty. My wife, Amanda, funny enough, she never used to like coriander, but she does now. We're not sure what it was. May have been her mum's cooking, but now she seems to like it. Wild garlic, another one for wild garlic. That's another one that does, yeah. That's a UK herb. There we go. And actually, well, I don't get wild garlic. I get tri-cornered leek, which is a type of wild garlic. It grows all over the place in my local vicinity, especially down my garden. Chickens have been working hard at getting it down as well. Nicholas says, I have hose-lock planter with a water reservoir for my strawberries and mint, like the planters. Yeah, because um, they like those strong that high water for mint. Rob Solomon God, we forget most of the herbs that is in the UK. Exactly. This is why I brought this question up. What is a herb that we can eat in the UK? Scott says sorrel is a wild UK herb. Sorrel is absolutely delicious. Wood sorrel, of course. Again, it loves the shade, does well in the shade. It does have a tendency to self-seed because I've got it. Well, I started off with one plant and it's growing everywhere in my garden now. But it also is a perennial and it's got this really nice lemony flavor to it. I use it a lot in salads, but yes, it is a wild UK herb. Really good, and it comes back every year. It grows delicious, can get really big. It's also incredibly hardy, very difficult to kill off. Turbo Extreme says carrots taste like soap to me too. One reason I don't grow them. Did not know that. Digwa says those that think it tastes like soap are at a higher evolutionary level. Yeah, is that what you tell yourself? We'll believe you. We'll believe you. Nigel says, "How about nettles? Would nettles be considered a herb? I know they're definitely edible. They're quite nice as well, aren't they? If you've ever eaten nettles, they can be very, very tasty. But would they be a herb? I guess they would be. Thinking about it." Meadows has joined. Apologies, only just realised what day it is. No worries. You've had a bad weekend, I know. So I hope things are getting better. But if it's any consolation, I've had just as bad weekend as well. Or week, I should say. Nicholas says, off topic, Lidl were doing large garlic bulbs with fat cloves for 15p. I'm going to have a go at growing it. Cheaper than buying through suppliers. Yeah, you want to get that in soon. Get that in soon because garlic needs a period of about 2 weeks with the temperature below 10 degrees C for it to produce cloves. And the temperature at the moment, it's a bit of a cold start, but it is mild. But the temperature is quite often above 10 degrees C at the moment. So you're going to need to get it in pretty soon. Rob says correct. Stuart Jackson says taste will change with age, so you need to try things you didn't like as a child. That is true. I never used to like curries as a child. Now I love the things. So yeah, that's a good one. Digwa says nettle tea, so I guess it is a herb. Yeah. I'm trying to work it out if it would be a herb or what. But again, what is the definition of a herb? What is the definition of a herb? For me, a herb is used to flavor as opposed to being the main ingredient. But uh, my thinking anyway. Scott says pineapple weed and other chamomile types, all wild herbs. Pineapple weed makes a great tea. I've never heard of pineapple weed, but it's a chamomile. Is it a type of chamomile? I'm guessing it is. Where you said that. I have to look into that. That sounds very intriguing. I love pineapples, so that's a good one. Nicholas is going to put in the fridge for a week at 2 degrees, talking about the garlic. Yeah. It may work. It may work. I've never had much luck doing it, but it may work. Give it a try and let us know how you get on. Digwell says that's why dark chocolate is preferred by adults. That makes sense. That does make sense. Scott says a type of chamomile, talking about the pineapple weed. I've never heard of it, so that's a new one on me. Excuse me. Margaret says Garden Chervil is mild licorice flavour and delicious with fish. Is this another UK based? I mean, chervil is another lovely, lovely herb. Another one I was thinking of is what's happened? What's happened? You can still hear me, can't you? I'm going to hit start. Oh, it's done it again. Something's disconnected, but hopefully you can still hear me. I think I know what it is. We've been fiddling things around this week. Something's came apart, so I'm going to have to try and look into that tomorrow. But yeah, Chervil and Lovage are two also that I think often get overlooked, and they are absolutely delicious. I've read that one. Margaret says, herb, any plant with leaves, seeds, or flowers used for flavoring food, medicine, or it's gone again. There we go. I'm back. Just check all the wires are in place. We will have a look at this at some point. Hopefully, it won't go again. Digwell says official definition of a herb, a type of whose leaves are used for cooking to give flavour to particular. Just Googled it. Yeah, flavouring, medicine, or perfume, as Margaret has said as well. But I guess how does that work with spices? Because you tend to use spices for flavouring as well. What's the difference between a herb and a spice? Just thinking out loud here. Chervil is French, I believe. You're probably right, but who knows? Who knows? It's delicious, though, isn't it? I don't know if anybody has grown it. It can get quite big, as can Lovage. Get quite big. 6 foot tall isn't unheard of, but that's a lot of herbs. Oh, good. And you can get pineapple mint, which tastes lush. Yes, I've grown pineapple mint. Again, I do find with a lot of these flavoured mints, they tend to lose their flavour after a couple of years. But yeah. Digwell says for spice, add the word pungent. So spice is more pungent than herbs. Okay, that adds a more pungent flavour, so stronger. Cool. Nicholas says, I can't be an adult then as I prefer milk chocolate. Yeah, cool. It's an interesting one, isn't it? As our flavours and tastes develop as we get older. Margaret says, in broad terms, both herbs and spices come from plants, but herbs are the fresh part of the plant, while spices are the dried root, dried stalk, seed, or dried fruit of the plant, and is almost always dried, not fresh. Okay, but you can dry herbs, but as well. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I'm thinking about it too much, I suspect. So another question that I'm going to throw out there. We touched upon companion planting, but what herbs do you grow for companion planting? Throw that out there. Digwell says, to me, it's like a tomato definition. Tomatoes are fruits, but that are considered vegetables by nutritionalists. Yeah, that makes sense. Although I would have thought the sugar content would bring them back into the fruit with certain nutritionalists anyway. But yeah, tomatoes are fruits, but considered a vegetable. But I think in that case, I think people often associate fruits with being after dinner treats, sweet treats. Digwell says, so a herb can be anything too. Yeah, it is very, very, very difficult to define the two. Margaret says, Chervil was originally from the Black Sea area, according to Mr. Google. Black Sea. So again, would the Black Sea be the Mediterranean or near the Mediterranean? I'm guessing. Geography slightly off on that. Chamomile for parasitic wasps. What does that bring in? The parasitic wasps or scare them off by growing chamomile? Basil with my tomatoes, Stuart Jackson says. I did it last year and it worked well, so I will do it again. Yeah, basil and tomatoes just seem to work incredibly well together. The basil seems to somehow add more flavour to the tomatoes and the smell of a greenhouse when you walk in and there's beautiful tomato basil flavor going on in there. It is amazing, isn't it? So yeah, I'm with you on that. Dill as well, Dill is a good example of a companion plant. Pull it in the borders or pull it in your vegetable beds, and I'm not sure what it does. I'm not sure what it does, actually. I'll let you guys tell me what it does. I just know it does work. Benny Soon says, chives is amongst my carrots. Again, what is that for? Is that to stop root fly? My guessing it is. Again, great use of chives. A few pots. Again, with chives, I mean, I grow quite a few chives, got them in pots, got them in my veggie pod. But every now and then, if you've got them in a pot, it's worth splitting the pot into two, just taking a knife to it, and potting them up, because as they grow bigger and bigger, don't they? And they take up more. Well, you end up with more chives. Digwell says, brings them in, they kill aphids. Talking about chamomile for parasitic wasps. Fantastic. So you grow chamomile, they'll bring in the parasitic wasps, which will kill aphids, which, as we all know, there's a lot of problems with aphids this year. So this is something we might have to do a bit more of. Garlic is good with carrots as well. Yep. And Ballycillian says, yes, about chives to stop carrot root fly. But chives and garlic, of course, being from the same, I mean, garlic's technically a herb as well, isn't it? Chives and garlic, of course, being from the same family, they would work quite well together as a way of, when you're harvesting your carrots, they put a smell out there that stops the carrot root fly from smelling your carrots and coming along and eating them. And munching on them. So definitely a lot to say for chives and garlic as a way of companion planting. But there's more we could do. I know dill is one that was mentioned earlier. What does that do? What, in your experience, does dill do as a companion plant? While you think of that, and a few others would be good, let's have a look at what photos you've sent in this week as well. There's quite a few photos. I've got to say, it's always good to see your photos. We love seeing them. So Scott got this little bee on his artichoke. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? Always we were talking about bee photography and things like that last week. Artichoke is a beautiful looking plant as well. Allotment Cook on this micro photography as well. This looks absolutely stunning. I suspect this is a rhubarb leaf, but I could be wrong. But again, close up macro photography. I really do get to see the details. Kate's plum blossom on this one. Plums are really in full flower at the moment. They are looking good. It's going to be a good year for plums, I suspect, as it is with many of our other stone fruits, plums, peaches, etc., etc. Going to be a good year for those. Sandra and her dragonfly. This dragonfly, I really like the look of it. To me, this dragonfly looks a bit like a helicopter, the way it's sitting there on all fours. I can just sort of imagine it being a helicopter on a helicopter shape. I don't know if anybody else can see that, but I can really see a helicopter in this. This came in last week, and I've been admiring this photo for quite a while. Beddoes and his veg deliveries got into model trains lately, and I can see this flatbed truck with cabbage, a rather large cabbage if this was to scale, cabbage and a few other vegetables on there as well. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Just to see these sort of things. Ginny has reminded us that don't forget the clocks go forward on the 29th of March, so we'll get 1 hour of less rain. Did it work? Because we didn't get any rain last night. We didn't hear anyway. We've had beautiful sunshine all weekend. Okay, as we've said, she's already moved house this weekend, and her new shed is huge. A lot of compliments on that. Looks absolutely stunning. I bet you cannot wait to get in there and set it up as your garden shed. I'm very, very, very envious of that. Scott has got some new shelving in his greenhouse, which again, full already of lots and lots of vegetables, of seedlings already growing. Again, I'm quite envious of seeing this. It's great to see so much is happening. Now, it wouldn't be Easter, of course, without some new chicks. And Nicola posted this picture of a bantam with her new chicks. I don't think these are Nicola's chickens, but it certainly does go to show that spring is in the air. Now, Stuart is growing all these herbs from seed as well. Looks like there's some oregano, maybe some thyme in there. I'm not sure. Perhaps he can tell us what they are in the detail, in the comments. Charlie's has posted some really good photos. Please do go and check them out and leave a comment. They look absolutely fantastic. Whole load of seedlings in a greenhouse. Tomatoes is the example I've shared here, but there's lots more in the photo. She really is cracking on. Looks fantastic is all I can say. Absolutely brilliant. And Stephen, he's got his photos in at last. That rhubarb looks absolutely huge as well. Stephen, of course, has got very, very small allotment, but he makes the most of it. So please do keep sending your photos in. You can post them in our Facebook group. You can send to me via social media, or you can email me, richard@veggroundpodcast.co.uk. Now, I was asking what dill does. Dill improves the flavour of brassicas. It attracts predators, it repels aphids and red spider mite, and it tastes great in pickled gherkins. Absolutely. We do like a good gherkin here. But again, that's another reason to grow dill. It attracts predators, repels aphids, red spider mite, all of which would just help out and improve your cabbages, improve your Brussels sprouts. I personally think that this year we're going to have a lot of problem with pests because it has been a pretty mild winter and a pretty wet one. We seem to be getting a lot of pests. I've never had problems with whitefly before, but this year has been a bit of a problem. Stuart says the herbs were thyme along with lettuce. I've also potted on my chilies this week. Fantastic, fantastic. Thyme, again, thyme, a beautiful creeping plant. Oh, it can be creeping, it can be, it looks great. It's just a stunning looking plant and adds that beautiful, fragrant flavour to a lot of things. I would consider thyme to be quite pungent in its smell, though. Just thinking out loud. Digwell says, I will have one dill plant in every bed on my plot. Yeah, I think I'm going to be doing the same, to be honest with you. I'll get some dill sown and have a lot of that growing on our allotment too. So there we go. Lots of things going on there. Now, as I said, I did have troubles with my computer, so I haven't been able to make the seed sow along for this week, but I can talk about it. It's annoying because I can see it in the corner of my eye. It is all edited. It is, or not edited, sorry. It is all in the edit suite. It's just my computer being so slow. I haven't been able to edit it to make it watchable. But we were doing the Dragon's Egg cucumber as this week's sow along. Now, Dragon's Egg is a beautiful white cucumber. It looks stunning. It looks brilliant. This is our seed of the month with Premier Seeds Direct. And Premier Seeds Direct are a fantastic resource if you are after a good load of seeds. They sell them pretty cheap, I've got to say, and in decent quantities. So I highly recommend Premier Seeds Direct. But if you want to use a discount code, I've got VegPod10, all in one word, VEGPOD10 for an extra 10% off from Premier Seeds Direct. VegPod10. And as an example, 25 Dragon's Egg cucumber seeds for £1.49 from Premier Seeds. Anyway, what I've done, I've also got sent some Jiffy Coir discs. So I've started those off. These Coir discs, you add water, they expand, and then you would drop your seed in and they grow on. Fantastic. We just pot them in 2 centimeters deep, let them grow on in a heated propagator. They need to be above 21 degrees C for germination. Then they need to stay above 12 degrees C in order for them to grow. It's too cold in the greenhouse at the moment, but that might change in a week or two. They can be grown outside or in a greenhouse, depending on where you want to grow. If you grow them in a greenhouse, really they need different conditions to tomatoes, which is easier said than done unless you've got more than one greenhouse. Basically, the humidity for cucumbers is different to what it is for tomatoes. In reality, who can really do that? It's one of those difficult things. But if you grow them outside, they tend to do absolutely fine as well. You can grow them up a stake, like a bamboo cane or hazel stick, or you can let them sprawl on the ground. But if you sprawl on the ground, you can get problems with slugs and snails as well. Once they start flowering, feed with a tomato feed on about a weekly basis. There will be a bit more on a video that I will put out at some point once I've finished or able to edit it if my computer speeds up, and you'll hear more about it on tomorrow's podcast as well. But I love growing cucumbers and it's absolutely delicious. Gherkins also fall into that same remit. But that was this week's seed or sow along for the week. Unfortunately, as I said, computer's just playing around, so I haven't been able to edit it. For next week, I might actually do a gherkin next week just to make things a little bit different. Right, where were we? Nicola says she loves dill in dressings. It is a delicious one to grow. And, you know, I grew it once. Dill, I actually grew once in hanging baskets. Anybody else grown any herbs in hanging baskets? That's a question I'm going to throw out. But dill grew in a hanging basket. It grew really big. It looked absolutely beautiful. This was actually in our old house. So I had it in a hanging basket on the shed, which was in our sunniest spot, but the only spot that did get sun. And because it was high up, the free draining side of that dill absolutely loves really did work. So highly recommend that. I prefer it to fennel with fish, for example, talking about dill. I'm with you on that. I prefer dill to fennel with fish, and it is absolutely delicious. Nicholas says, we had heavy rain last night and have had for the last couple of hours too. It's still sunny here, just. Alexa's just told me to expect heavy rain overnight. Oh, that's annoying. And Scott says, dill in tartar sauce works great. Yeah, I mean, I use dill in a lot of things. It is a very strong flavoured herb, but you can get so much of it. Chop it up very finely, just adds a lot of flavour to it. Stuart Jackson says the Jiffy discs are great for plants that don't like that roots messed with. We use a lot at school as their children love to watch Leucaena grow. I agree. The ones I've got, they seem to, the coir discs, however, seem to have fallen apart quite easy once they've expanded. So I'm keeping a close eye on them, in all honesty, and see how they get on. But I got sent a load of coir discs from Jiffy themselves, peat-free, of course, and I've got to use them up, really, haven't I? So we're featuring them in, or would have been in this week's Sow Along. If I can get it out, you will see it. Digwell says a mild aniseed flavour. Is that for the dill or for the fennel? Are you talking about? I find fennel tends to have that aniseed flavour. I don't find dill does personally. I don't like aniseed, in all honesty. It reminds me of Sambuca, which can make me rather ill after many hours of drinking it, as I'm sure you can imagine, in my younger days. But yeah, herbs in hanging baskets. I'm just thinking off the top of my head some of the herbs that I reckon would do really well in hanging baskets. The Mediterranean herbs certainly will. The rosemaries, the sages, the thymes, I think they would do great because they get that free draining from the gravity, and they get much more sun. Digwell, on that note about the Jiffy discs, the new Botannen Jiffy pellets are not as good as the old ones. That's the ones I've got. They sent me a load, and I've got to admit, they're not. I agree, they're not as good as the old ones from my experience. They just, to me, they seem very, very fragile, in my opinion. But we'll keep a close eye. I might be wrong. We'll see what happens. Digler says, I'd have trouble reaching the herbs in a basket. Depends how high up. They don't have to be above your head height, don't they? Hanging baskets could also work at sort of that height, or even over railings or something like that. My sister recently moved into a flat, and when she moved in, she's got patio windows, even though there's no balcony or anything, and there's a railing there. And I noticed they've got some planters out on these railings, which have eyed up, and I think I might sneak in some herbs into those planters for her to grow. And I'm thinking something like rosemary, thyme, maybe dill, something like that. Maybe even mint would look great on that. Digwell says, I have the same ones, Richard. Got Cosmos growing in mine. Almost scared to touch them now. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only person that felt that at the same time. They do seem rather loose. I've got quite a few to use up too, so I've got to use them up at some point. I've got so many different composts to trial and things, so it's interesting to see where we're going in the future with this, is what I can say. But I was having high hopes with Jiffy's because I thought, I know you like them a lot. Again, I'm moving away from growing in seed trays. I'm moving more into plug plant starters, and Jiffy's, just although I think they can be a bit expensive, but we'll see if they work. Digwell says, going to buy another few thousand of the old ones before they are banned. Yeah, it's probably the best way to do it. Bulk buy, isn't it? How much are they when you bulk buy, Digwell? Out of curiosity, as I said, I like my plug plant starters because it just works brilliantly. I've got to the point nowadays where I don't want to keep pricking out seedlings all the time. Be just convenience more than anything. I've got to the point where I like plug plants because when they are ready, I can just pop them out, pop them into a bigger pot, and just saves the whole pricking out process, which works better for me with time constraints and things like that. Stuart Jackson says, always paper pots, win-win for my flower growing. Yeah, Stuart, of course, does his paper pots, which, yeah, absolutely fine with that. If my only downside with paper pots is the time spent making them, which isn't a huge amount of time, but that's the only thing I tend to struggle with. At the moment, I'm all about trying to make or save as much time as possible, as well as money, of course. But paper pots, paper pots work. These Jiffy pots, in fact, Jiffy pots inside the paper pots would probably work quite well at holding together these new Jiffy pots. Yeah. So has anybody else got any other questions they would like to throw in about the herb gardens or herbs they would like to add? I think it's important to remember that herb gardens have always been a staple in many stately homes right throughout the years. I remember when I was at one particular stately home, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Elton Palace, which Henry VIII was. No. It was a program I was watching on Henry VIII, and it was documented that he would experiment quite a lot with herbs to handle all the ailments that he had. So he had his own herb garden in his castle. I don't know if he built it himself or what, I don't know. But he would experiment with herbs to deal with his dodgy knees and things like that. And this is another reason why I think herb gardens are such a staple in many homes, because they've been a staple in so many things throughout the years. Victorian gardens, stately homes, castles all had herb gardens for a very good reason. They would add a lot of flavour to the food, the medicinal benefits, which, as I said, I don't like getting into, and so on and so on. Rob's got to go. I'll catch you next week. You take care, buddy. Lovely to see you anyway. I know it's been a struggle this week, and I apologise for that. When I go live, I try and prep as much as possible, but when things go wrong, everything goes out the window. We will do better next week. Apologies. Yeah, so yeah, I do think that herb gardens are very, very important. And as I said earlier, they can be growing anywhere. Um, I don't tend to grow so many herbs down on the plot, although on the allotment that is. I tend to grow all my herbs at home. Although with the conversations we've had about companion planting, I'm probably going to grow quite a few more down on the allotment because it just seems to make much more sense for companion planting. Digwell says I got 2024 millimeter ones for about 90 quid when they are on offer, around 120 quid now at Premier Seeds plus 10% discount. So for what, for 2000? So let's see what that works out as. Let me bring that up. 2000 divided by 90 quid. So no, let's do that wrong. 90 divided by 2000, just under 5p each, which is pretty good, isn't it? Just under 5p each. Hannah Jones says, not really a herb, but nasturtiums look good in hanging baskets. Peppery flavour if you eat them too. It's a good point. Would nasturtiums qualify as a herb? But yeah, I like nasturtiums. Again, they go well with companion planting, which is something we do need to talk about at some point. But I've got somebody in the pipeline talking about companion planting. There was a comment I saw. I don't know if I read this one out. Digwell said garlic bulbs are vegetables. And I did say they're considered a herb. Well, the reason I said they're considered a herb sometimes is because they're often sold in the herb section at garden centres. Although, yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Is it a herb? Is it a vegetable? It depends on which side of the fence you stand on. But nasturtium's definitely something, not really a herb, but they are edible flower. Edible flower. Something I think we will have to. Well, flowers, that's a conversation we could have as well. Benno says, I've got a question. Do you know how to stop a leak in shower? They say things always comes in threes, so hopefully it's over for me now for a while. How to stop a leak in shower? Depends where it's leaking from. Could be a washer, could be a joint, anything like that. LS6 is probably one of the best things I've used for stopping leaks. On that and PTFE tape, depending on where it's leaking from. Turn the valve off, says Digwell. Yeah, that's another answer. Turn the valve off. Stop it from leaking. Not really a gardening question, this though, is it? But it does conserve water. Yeah. You know what? I am looking at these cream eggs to the side of me. And I am craving eating one. No, I'm not going to do that one on camera. I'm going to resist. Really want to eat one, but then I can't talk on camera at the same time because it's awful. Oh, I'm so annoyed with the computer not working that I couldn't get the sew along video out for you, or the macro video either, because it was so good. It was already really good. I'm really annoyed at myself for not being able to get that out for you, but these things do happen, I'm afraid, and I will rectify that in time for next weekend. As I said at the beginning, back up. All your files, all your pictures of your allotments, your gardens, your animals, pets, back them up. I will be definitely doing that in the future. I'm going to try and cloud backup as well as normal backup. What have we got here? Digwell says, at Thames Water, we call LSX snot. A lot of good stuff. It is. It goes on wet. That and plumbers, mate, are the two I tend to use quite a bit of. Great. I've used it so many times with leaks. I guess actually, I mean, we could discuss this with our outdoor garden tap, actually. I very rarely use our outdoor garden taps. But we do have an outdoor garden tap with a hose pipe attached to it, just for those times when you do need a hose pipe as opposed to our water butts. And when they leak, they are annoying. PTFE is one of the best things I've found for stopping our hose pipes from leaking when you attach them on all the joints. Whereas on our water butts, thinking about it, LSX works great for stopping our water butts from leaking. Like how I've brought this back to gardening. When our it's almost like a mastic, but it actually, unlike mastic, it sticks when it's wet. So you would smear it on around the joint that is leaking, and pretty easily it will stop the leak. Um, um, and there's nothing worse than having a leak because it wastes so much water. With 16 water butts in my garden, we have to make sure that is not leaking to try and hold on to as much water as possible. Digwell says, sounds like England rugby team. Back up, back up, back ups. Yeah, sorry. And Nicholas says, has everyone thumbs up? Thank you for reminding. Yes, please do. Give us a thumbs up, a like, follow, subscribe, and click the notification. I know this has not been one of the best shows tonight because of technical issues, but we will get better. We just need to keep getting better. We're doing all right, though. We're doing all right. At least the signal issues haven't been a problem tonight. That's all I can say. We've got rid of that problem. Now, as I said, next week we're going to do a Gherkin sew along, and what we're going to discuss, I had the idea earlier. I can't remember what the subject was going to be. It was a good one, and I've forgotten it. It'll come to me in a minute. But I do need a mission, a challenge to do for the next week. Just set a challenge or something that I can do. Digwell says kiss of death. Yeah, when technical issues go wrong, everything just boom, boom, boom goes wrong afterwards, doesn't it? And then it's difficult to keep everything going. High-grade gas might need to make a note of what you just said. I have all sorts of leak issues with hose pipes, etc., etc. PTFE tape. So this is PTFE tape. You wrap it around like a screw joint, BSP fitting a screw joint. So often your hose pipe, the outdoor tap will have a screw fitting that you screw in an adapter. But PTFE around it, always go the direction that you screw things on. So you wrap the PTFE around that way and then you screw it on. Go around 3 times and then it creates a nice little seal. But then anything else, LSX, it's like a tube of toothpaste. You can get it from B&Q and places like that. It's like a mastic, but it sticks to stuff when it's wet. And you just smear that on, and it does well. All the other stuff is plumber's mate as well, which is you get it in a tub. It's like a putty. You smear that on as well. I use that quite often. It looks, when it's on, it looks like chewing gum, but again, it stops a huge amount of leaks in your water butts and things. It may not be the prettiest looking thing, but it does look great, good. Digwell says LSX is better. Yeah, I have to agree. LSX is better. Made by Fernox. It's a yellow tube, comes in a yellow box as well. You find it in the plumbers section at B&Q, Wickes, Screwfix, places like that. And you just literally smear it on and off you go. It is brilliant stuff. The only, if it's got a bit of pressure behind it, it might not cure it, but plumber's mate is better when there's pressure, I found myself. Digwell says, woohoo, just sold 16 Basils during the show. Charity will be happy. Fantastic. That's good news. Stuart Jackson says, this week's challenge is to avoid April Fools. Is that because I've got you quite badly in the past? Was it 2020 when I put on my Facebook page that I was going to be on Gardener's World, and you, Stuart, went and set the video recorder? That was a good one. I always remember that for 2020. I love that one. Hargrave Guest says, I will get some LSX and PTFE. Thanks for the plumbing tips. Yeah, it's good stuff. Money Roots also recommends Boss White. It's another one. I've not used Boss White in a while, but that's actually good for, it's also good, but you need to get it on the joint. So if it's on a tap or something, you have to undo the jab, the joint. It is a good one, but Digwell says he's not heard of that one for a while. But Moneywit says I've cracked a few basins undoing those joints with Boss Wine. That is a risk. It's almost like a glue, whereas PTFE and LSX isn't quite as permanent, shall we say, for it. But don't use both together, LSX and PTFE. Yeah, don't use both together. As I said, PTFE is good if you can get to the joint. You can turn the tap off and you can get to the joint without covering yourself in water. LSX, if it's wet and you just want to smear it on, it's easy enough. I know these never thought we would talk about plumbing on this in this show, but it is something we need to talk about, isn't it? In watering. I can't remember what the subject I had because I was delayed. All my notes are on the server that I've lost. Hargrave has given us the thumbs up. Yeah, please do give us the thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, and all that. What was it? What was the subject? Still waiting for a mission as well for next week. We're going to be sowing gherkins. I assume that's what we've done this week, I know. But keep your eye out on the channels for the sow along. What else? Digwell says LSX works great on threads too, and it's easy to take the joint apart in the future. Yeah, I have to admit it is great for that. What was the subject I was going to discuss? I can't remember. If anybody has a subject that they would like us to discuss next week, let us know as well. We've got about 7 minutes to go for this week. I'm trying to think on my feet at the moment. It is amazing. I spend a lot of time trying to plan all these shows, but you wouldn't believe it. But what the trouble with planning is that, especially with my ADD brain, I have to write things down in order to try and retain them. If I think of the idea, I forget quite easily. This is what ADD has a tendency to do. So I spend a lot of time writing notes down, and I keep them on a server so that I never lose them. Losing them is a bloody pain in the ass. Excuse my French, but it is really, really annoying. I tell you what we're going to do. I tell you what, we're going to mix it up slightly. I tell you what I think we could do for next week, because I'm not seeing any suggestions just yet. But perhaps we should discuss some edible flowers for next week. I think we may have discussed this before, but I think edible flowers might be something to throw into the mix for next week's show. What does anybody think of that? And perhaps you could come up with a mission along those lines as well. Let me know. Let me know. Oh, here we go. Actually, this is a much better subject. Nigel says, grow your own plants from seed versus buying in. That's a much better subject, actually. Grow your own plants from seed versus buying in. That's a good debate. We could debate that, couldn't we? Yes, we will do that. Growing your own plants from seed versus buying them in. That is going to be the debate for next week. I like that. I like that a lot. Digwell says, sounds good, Nigel. Yeah, I actually do like that a lot. So, Nigel, we need you to make sure you got plenty of thoughts on it that you can share with us. Perhaps you can record a video or something to send in with your thoughts on this very subject as well. It would be great discussion. Yeah, so that's what we're going to discuss next week. Grow your own plants versus from seed versus buying in. And the seed sow along is going to be gherkins. All I need next is a mission, a challenge. I know we've had a couple. Avoid April Fools, which is going to be too difficult. or eat all these chocolate eggs in. There's no chance. I've had my dinner already, so there was no chance I was going to be able to do that. But a good mission, a good challenge that I need you guys to set for me would be fantastic before we start wrapping up. It's just coming up on my computer, actually, that it's going to rain tonight, as you guys have been saying. So, yeah, rain is exactly right. Digwell says, fix the hardware in this shed. That is going to happen. That is going to happen. It's going to be done. That's not a mission. That is has to be done. Yeah, that has to happen. Just has to happen. There's no way I can run my business without having all this working, which is why I'm so peed off that I didn't back everything up. Something I'm going to have to look into in the future. What else? What can we do? What can I have as a mission? I'm trying to think. I'll tell you what, if it's any use, I'm going to the Ideal Home Show on Friday in London. So perhaps you could come up with a challenge for me to find something there. How does that sound for a challenge, a mission? Any ideas on that? Just to help anybody out. I'm trying to think, anything I got in a plan for next weekend? I cannot think of anything for next weekend that I'm doing specifically. Having some time at home. Yeah, I just need that challenge. That's the last thing I'm waiting on for the challenge, a gardening challenge of some kind. Perhaps I have to go to the Ideal Home Show on Friday and find something. Lee Connolly, Skinny Jim Gardener, is doing a talk there, so I'll be watching him. I think he's doing some cooking there. Turbo Stream says, get some garden freebies from the Ideal Home Show. Okay, that could be a good challenge. That could work. Cheapest shed, etc. at the show. Yep. Find the cheapest shed and see if we can get some garden freebies. I like this. Some challenges that are going on. There we go. That is exactly what we were hoping for. Right, guys. It's time to wrap this up and get out of here. Before we go, I've just seen that. Thanks for a great show. Hopefully, I'll be more mobile after hospital MRI scan a week before. Hope you are okay. Belly Sherwin suitable for greenhouses. Find that. Yep, we will find that. We'll find that out. Turbo Stream says free shed at the show. That ain't going to happen. Hargrave Gaston, thanks for a great week's chat. Who cares about technical issues when you have great people online? See you all next week. Thank you so much. Again, I cannot apologize enough for the show just not coming together as well as I like, just purely because of my technical issues that always seem to fluster things. But we will sort it out, ready for next week. Right, guys, we will be back again next week. 6 o'clock on Sunday, as always. There's no change in times, I don't think. I'm surprised, actually, we haven't seen any of the people across the bond come in late or anything. But hey, who knows? Nicholas says make a bird box. Maybe save that for in a couple of weeks' time. Let us remember that for next week. That might be an option. Right, guys, you take care. I'll see you all again next week.